Okay. Okay, I think we're live. Hello, everyone. My name is Anissa. I'm Education USA advisor in Tajikistan. We are happy that you have joined us both on Zoom and Facebook. Today, I'm happy to introduce you to the Clayton Harmon, who is Director of International Enrollment Management at the University of Colorado, Denver. And he woke up today at 4 a.m. for us to present you guys about the graduate applications to US universities and specifically about master programs which are offered at University of Colorado, Denver. So if you guys will have any questions, if you watch us on Zoom, make sure you type those questions in Q&A box. If you watch us on Facebook, just type them in the comment section, and then we will try to respond to the questions after the webinar or maybe during the webinar if Clay feels comfortable doing that way. Also, session is recorded and will be saved on our Facebook pages for your future references. Thank you very much. And Clay, you may start.
Good morning. Can you see the presentation?
Yes, we can.
Very good. Well, it is my pleasure to be here with you this morning. My name is Clay Harmon, and I work for the University of Colorado, Denver. So good morning from Denver. It is 4 o'clock. It's very dark outside, but I am glad to be here with you from the opposite side of the world. So today, our topic is graduate admission in the US. How does it work? What do universities look for? What can you expect if you're applying for a graduate program? So first, what do I mean by graduate? This is sometimes called postgraduate. That tends to be more of the British phrase. In the US, we use the word graduate. And when I say graduate, I mean three different things. I mean master's degrees, like MA, MS, MBA, etc., doctoral degrees, such as your PhDs, and then professional degrees, law, medicine, pharmacy. All of those things in the United States are taught at the postgraduate level. So it is not possible to study medicine as an undergraduate, for example. And what is different about graduate admission? Well, first of all, individual faculty members or professors make the admission decisions, typically in a committee format. So it is not just admissions staff reviewing your application, but it is actually professors in the department, in the program, who make the decision. Secondly, they are going to use what we call a holistic review. This means that they will look at everything that you submit, and we'll go through the documents in just a minute. But it is not as simple as earning a certain level of grades or earning a certain score on an exam. They really will try to understand who you are as a person, understand your strengths and weaknesses and your passions and your interests, and determine whether the whole of you as a person is a good fit for the program. So that's why we call it a holistic review. Deadlines are often very early and sometimes very strict, so you will want to start planning early. And one unique feature about the US education system is that we very frequently have students who change direction between their undergrad and their graduate studies. So for example, you could have studied chemical engineering as an undergraduate, but you decided that you are more interested in business or education. And so you decide that you want to earn a master's degree in business or education. That's totally fine. We see that all the time, and the US system is set up for that. So I mentioned that it's faculty who make those admission decisions. So what is it they want? There are really two key factors that the faculty are going to be looking for. One is academic preparation. Do you have the skills and experiences necessary to succeed in the program? You need to have completed a bachelor degree. Some doctoral programs require that you have a master's degree, but most allow you to apply to a doctoral program directly after a bachelor degree. They will look at your grades or your marks, and standardized test scores as key data points to understand your academic ability and preparation. And they will look at your English language proficiency. There are a few programs that will offer conditional admission, but most graduate programs expect you to have reached the level of English proficiency that you need in order to admit you. They may look at other things as well, such as have you taken a certain set of coursework during your undergraduate degree? Do you have adequate experience in research, for example? It really depends on the program itself. And then the second piece is they're looking for a good fit, a match between your academic and career goals and what the program has to offer. Do you have the necessary background? So have you done research in the area? Have you worked in the field? Or you have some other way that you can demonstrate that you have a relevant background? And for doctoral programs, since those are research-based, you need to come prepared with a research interest when you apply. It doesn't have to be an exact experiment, but you need to have identified, I am interested in learning about X. And that will allow the faculty to evaluate, are you interested in something that aligns with what they do research about? So for example, if you're applying for a biology PhD and you say, I really care about forestry and ecology and trees, and I'm going to do research on a certain kind of beetle that drills holes into trees or whatever, but the program that you're applying for, the department you're applying for, is more specialized in microbiology, then that's not going to be a fit. So pay attention to what the professors are researching and express how your interests align with their offerings. So that's a brief overview, but now let's walk through sort of the process and all the different steps that are involved in applying for a graduate program. First, pay attention to those application deadlines. I mentioned that they're often early and they're often strict. So for example, if you're looking at next fall, the fall 2021, which would start in August or September, they may have an application deadline as early as December of next month. So do pay attention to when those are. Two, you can always reach out to professors in the department. And this can be a valuable first step as you are exploring different options for your graduate degrees. It allows you to start a conversation with professors in the department and just say, hey, I am thinking about applying to your program and I'm really interested in studying this particular topic. I want to understand if that's a good fit for you. I want to understand what you're looking for students in the program. This is my background, that kind of thing. You can find contact information online, and you can always feel free just to email professors. That's totally fine. And the benefit is that either you will learn, oh, maybe this isn't such a good fit for me after all, and then you don't have to apply. Or maybe you start a great conversation with someone, and then later on, after you have applied, when they're reviewing applications, they may recognize your name and your background and say, oh yeah, I had this great conversation with this individual. I got excited about having them in the program. I'd really like to admit them. So consider that. This step is not as important for master's degrees, but it may be more important for doctoral degrees. So keep that in mind. And then you're ready to start applying. So every university in the US uses an online application form of some kind or another, and that is where your process will start. So complete that form. You'll need to submit all the required documents and test scores to complete your application. And there's typically an admission office that will collect those materials and evaluate them, make sure that everything is complete and ready to go. Then they will forward that application to the faculty for review. And the period of time to review can really vary from program to program, department to department. But typically what we see is about 4 to 6 weeks. So from the time the admission office sends those materials to the faculty, about 4 to 6 weeks. Sometimes they will wait until a particular date and issue all the decisions at once. Sometimes they will do what we call rolling admissions, and they will release the decisions as they make them. Regardless, the faculty will make the admission decision. Sometimes that also includes a financial aid package offer. And then the admission office will send the decision letter to you, typically by email. Some of them still do it by mail. And then after that, the international office at the university will help you with your I-20 and F1 visa, assuming that you were admitted. So what are these documents that we need to prepare? So first is the online application form. You should always start with the department's website and follow their instructions for the online application. There are many different products and platforms out there. And typically, universities will have their own sort of application form that they host and that they expect you to use. So please do your research, find that link on the department website and click on it. And then a lot of times these application forms, well, first of all, most programs have an application fee, and it ranges from anywhere from $50 to $100 typically that you need to pay when you submit the application. It's non-refundable, so you will need to pay that fee and you should not expect to get it back. Secondly, sometimes the form requires you to upload your documents directly into the form. Then, after you've submitted the form, the most important piece of documentation is your transcript and diplomas or degree certificates. You need to collect transcripts from all undergraduate and graduate institutions that you have attended, regardless whether you earned a degree from that institution or not. So if you started in one place and then moved to a different place and got your degree from the second school, you will need to provide transcripts from both schools. And you need to provide proof that you completed your bachelor degree. So typically you'll want to provide your diploma with that. Most places will allow you to submit unofficial transcripts at the time of application. And so you should be able to scan and email or upload your transcripts and diplomas to the application system. There are some schools that will require official transcripts, and I know that that can sometimes be really challenging to provide. So by official, typically we mean something that came directly from your previous institution that is sent directly to the US institution and is in a closed envelope with an official seal on it. I know that I don't know about Tajikistan specifically, but I know that a lot of Russian-based systems, it can be very difficult to get official documents. And so in most cases, universities will be willing to work with you. And when you apply, you can submit unofficial, so copies of your transcripts. And then when you arrive in the US, you can provide those official documents and you can just take them to the office and they'll review them. If your documents were issued in a language other than English, you probably will need to provide a translation. And there are some schools that will also require you to get an evaluation. So a translation is just just translating each word on the document from Tajik or whatever language it is into English so that we can understand what we're looking at. But all it does is just reproduce the document. An evaluation takes your transcript from Tajikistan and sort of helps, like, translates the value of it into the US system. So I know Tajikistan typically uses a 5-point scale, but in the US we use a 4-point scale. So an evaluation would take each one of those grades that you earned and equate the equivalent in the US system. So if you got a 5, then that's an A. If you got a 4, that's a B, etc. And then that company will provide a GPA equivalent for US institutions to use. So some institutions will require you to go through a particular company and pay for that evaluation service when you apply. So you will need to pay attention to that. So I see that there's a question about scholarships, and I am going to get to that at the end of my presentation. Thanks so much. So then after your transcripts and diplomas, you'll need to understand whether your program requires standardized test scores. Some programs do, some programs do not. More and more programs are choosing not to require test scores, which I think is really positive, but there are still plenty of programs out there that do. The most common one is the GRE, the Graduate Record Examination, but there's also the GMAT, which is used for business, LSAT, which is used for law, and there are many other standardized tests. Typically, they evaluate your your language ability. Not strictly speaking your English language ability, but more like your ability to understand written and to form arguments using language. And then secondly, they test your quantitative ability, so your math skills. And some of them, like the LSAT, include logic puzzles. So that's pretty much what the content is of those exams. And then you'll want to make sure to submit your official exam scores to the university. And each of these exams has a slightly different way of doing that. Sometimes they have a code, or sometimes you choose the name from the drop-down menu. But regardless, you'll need to pay attention to make sure you submit those scores properly. Next, excuse me, next we have the personal statement, or the statement of purpose. And this is a really key component of your application. As you'll recall, the faculty are trying to make a decision about you as a whole person. And so a lot of times they place the greatest emphasis on your personal statement. So what is the goal here? The goal is for you to talk about yourself, talk about who you are, what your background is, why you're qualified for this program. You talk about the program, you talk about why this particular department is a great fit for you. And it's absolutely a good idea to name drop, do some research, find out on the website. Say you see that Dr. Smith is researching ants, and that's, right up, that's really aligns with your interests. You can say, I want to come research ants in Dr. Smith's lab, right? Or I see that the curriculum includes courses on special education in these areas, and I'm really excited to take those courses because of this experience that I have had in Tajikistan or whatever. So make sure to include those two elements. And then finally, also include how will this program set you up for success in the future? After earning this degree, I plan to pursue a career in X, and this degree will help me get there in this way. So those are the three goals of the statement of purpose. There's a slight difference between master's degrees and doctoral degrees for the statement of purpose. For doctoral degrees, you really want to hone in on that research. Really understand what research projects the department sponsors specifically mention the professor that you want to work with or the research that you want to do. That's very important for a doctoral degree. For a master's degree, it can be a little bit more generic and broad and just be about the curriculum of the program, that kind of thing. Next, we have letters of recommendation. Typically, they require 3 letters of recommendation, sometimes more or fewer. Please make sure to get as many of these as possible from former professors. This is an academic application, and it is professors who are reviewing your materials, and they are interested in your scholarly ability. So it is always best to find professors who can write about your past. If you can't find 3 professors from your previous institution, you can provide letters from supervisors in jobs that you have had, but it's best if 1 or maybe 2 of your letters are from supervisors, and it's definitely best if 2 or more are from professors. What should they say? So, you know, the expectations for a letter of recommendation in the US are pretty specific. They don't want to know that you showed up on time to class and that you dressed nicely every day and that you were polite and well behaved in class. Our professors are interested in learning about your academic history and experiences. So when your previous professors write these letters, they should emphasize any research that you did, your contributions to the classes, your intellectual ability. Basically, our professors want to hear from your professors why you're going to be successful in the program. What is it about you that makes your former professors confident that you will succeed in a graduate program of study? So this is an expectation that I think is different from a lot of countries around the world. And often when I see letters of recommendation for international students, they tend to be very basic. That I've seen professors in the US react negatively to that. So please make sure to get that content that they're looking for. Next, you'll need proof of English language proficiency. Typically, the programs will accept different tests, such as the TOEFL, the IELTS, PTE. More and more programs are accepting Duolingo. Sometimes there are other options. So if you come to the university in the US and you study English at an ESL program first before you start your degree program, or if you have earned, say, your bachelor's degree in the UK or something like that, then you may be able to avoid taking the TOEFL or the IELTS, but that is typically required. You'll need a resume or CV, and some things not to include on your resume from the American perspective are, we don't need a photo. We don't want to know what you look like. We don't need to know your age or your marital status. We don't need to know how many children you have. We don't need to know your blood type or anything like that. It really should be a summary of your academic history, your education, your employment history, so what jobs you have had and what your duties were specifically at each of those jobs, any awards you have earned, any special activities you have completed, and any skills that you have. So if you know a particular programming language, or if you speak 4 different languages, or if you've traveled to 15 different countries, or if you are a ballroom dance instructor or whatever, just put your special skills and abilities on that resume. And then you'll need proof of financial ability. This is really required for getting that visa. And so some departments will include this in the application for admission, and some will wait until later. So at my university, we do not require this when you apply because we take care of that money part later, but some institutions do require you to include it at the beginning. Every program should have an estimated cost of attendance for international students that you should be able to find typically on the International Office website for that program. And then you will need to provide a bank statement or a sponsorship letter or some proof that you have access to the funds to pay for your first year of instruction. Like I said, some institutions do this after you've been admitted, but some do it at the time of application. And then finally, some programs require other documentation. It may be a series of essay questions, it may be a writing sample, they want to see a report that you have written in the past. It could be a portfolio if you're applying to, say, architecture or fine arts. Typically, they will require that you submit some artwork or previous designs that you've done. And then some programs will require an interview as part of the review process. Okay, so now we've gone through all the documents and all the expectations for admission, and I know that was a lot of information, but hopefully Anissa can share these slides, or you can watch the recording later if you missed something. And so I wanted to touch briefly on financial aid. And this is speaking generally across all universities in the US. So typically there are two categories. There's the scholarships and grants, which is money that is given to you. And then there's teaching and research assistantships, which is money that you earn by working. So scholarships and grants are very, very rare for master's degrees. I would not expect any scholarship opportunities if you're applying for a master's degree. They sometimes are available for doctoral degrees. The traditional way of doing a doctoral program is that the school provides a full financial aid package, including scholarship and grant aid, including research assistantships, et cetera. But it is less and less the case that schools are able to do that. So I would say that full scholarships are rare and highly unlikely, but they are more likely for doctoral degrees than they are for master's degrees. And a lot of doctoral degrees do offer either partial scholarships, or they will offer you reduced tuition, so you can pay like in-state tuition instead of out-of-state tuition, something like that. And then you have assistantships. So these are ways in which you can earn money, reduce your cost by working for the department. So if you're a TA, you will teach or you will help teach undergraduate courses in the department. And then if you're an RA, you will be in labs or helping do data entry or coding or whatever, and helping contribute to professors' research that they have going on. So the process really varies from institution to institution. Some programs, especially doctoral programs, will include financial aid offers with the admission letter. So when you receive your admission letter, it will include something like, we are offering you grants in the amount of this many dollars, and we are offering you a teaching assistantship position, and that's all included in the admission letter, and there's no additional step. Other programs will require additional steps, either during or after the admission process. So you may be required to provide an additional essay explaining why you need and deserve a scholarship. Excuse me, or you may need to, like a job application, you may need to apply for an assistantship and or something like that. So it's something to pay attention to. You can always contact the department to ask them how the financial aid process works and what they have available. Okay, so we just went through a lot of information in a very short period of time. So I wanted to take just a couple of minutes and see whether anyone has any questions about graduate admission in general in the US. And then after this, I will move on and I will talk about my university specifically.
Do you want me to read the questions for you?
Oh, I think I see them in the Q&A section.
Yeah, and we have, I think, one question about how to apply in chat box.
Okay. So I'll answer the two in the Q&A. So I study in an English medium university in Tajikistan, which uses a 4-point grade system. Can my transcript be submitted without transferring to US system? It's going to vary from university to university. There are some universities like mine where we have the staff and the skills and knowledge that we can evaluate your transcript ourselves, and we will see that it is similar to a US system. There are other universities where they just have a blanket policy that any credential that you have that's coming from outside the United States has to be evaluated by a third-party company, no matter what. And that evaluation not only has to do with GPA, although that is a key part of it, but it also has to do with accreditation, recognition of the institution, of the degree. And so US departments may see your transcript and it looks familiar because it's on a 4-point scale and it's in English, but maybe they're not 100% confident that your university is recognized because they've never heard of it before. So that evaluation from the third-party company or from inside the university is a key part of understanding that accreditation question. So unfortunately, there is no simple answer to your question. It seems like it should be quick and easy, but you will need to check with the department because it's different. I'm not sure I understand the next question, so I'm just going to skip that. And you said that there was something in the chat box as well. Let's see.
Yeah, so the student is asking how to submit my documents. I guess she meant like the application process, whether it happens online or like they have to send the documents, by post.
Sure. So again, this is going to vary. I'm in the chat box now. I see the question. Thank you. So again, this is going to vary from school to school. Most universities, in my experience, are very online and very digitally savvy and will accept documents electronically, particularly during the application process, because we recognize that it's a challenge to get official documents and to send them halfway around the world. And so typically you should be able to email or upload your documents at the time of application. There are some schools, however, that do require official documents, or they require that documents be mailed. And so they should outline those requirements on their website. It should be clear what the expectation is. And if you have any questions, if you're not quite sure what their expectation is, then you should contact the admissions office at the university and ask them. So I don't have an IELTS score, but my English is good. I'm able to study in this university. Good. That's great. So, some universities will, as I mentioned, will provide alternative means for you to meet the English proficiency requirement. So if you don't have an IELTS score, you don't want to take the IELTS, you may be able to take the Duolingo test, or perhaps, if your university is provides the program in English or holds US or UK accreditation, then that could meet the English requirement. Some universities will have ESL programs, or some universities will say if you earn a high enough score on the GRE, then that meets the English requirement. So there may be ways other than the IELTS. All right. Any final questions about graduate admission in general before we move on to University of Colorado Denver? So Anonymous asks, do I have a master's program of aerospace engineering or something connected with space? I do not at my university, the University of Colorado Denver, which I'm going to talk about in just a minute. But our sister campus, the University of Colorado Boulder, which is only about half an hour away in the beautiful city of Boulder, Colorado, does have a very, very strong aerospace program. And they also have all kinds of interesting, like planetary biology and paleobotany and all kinds of interesting things. So I recommend that you check out the University of Colorado Boulder for aerospace. I've studied in the US and Japanese universities. Do I still need to take English proficiency test? Again, that depends on the university. At my university, if you earned a degree in the US, then you would not need to take an English test. But each university is going to have a different response to that question. So you will need to ask each university individually. The next question is about full scholarships. My university, University of Colorado Denver, does not have full scholarships, unfortunately. And Master of Civil Engineering, that's a popular choice. And we do offer that at my university, which you'll see in just a minute. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and get back to the presentation and introduce you to the University of Colorado Denver. So we are abbreviated as CU, even though it is University of Colorado. You'd expect it to be UC, but it's actually CU. And the reason we do that is to prevent confusion, because UC is the University of California. And so even in the US, in order to be clear as to which state we're talking about, we switch the order of the letters. So UC is California and CU is Colorado. And this is a picture of my campus. So who are we? The University of Colorado Denver is a mid-sized, comprehensive public research university with about 15,000 students, and about 7% are international. So we have just over 1,000 international students. We're a very comprehensive university. So we have over 150 different degree programs, 7 different schools and colleges. We have our own ESL Academy, so the English program that I was describing earlier. And we are located in the middle of downtown Denver. And you can see this is a map of the United States, and the red state here is Colorado. So I mentioned that we have many, many different degree programs. We're a comprehensive university, so we have everything from art to business to health and medicine, languages, STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math. We have it all. And then some of our rankings are over here on the right. I don't put a lot of faith in rankings, but I know that they can be beneficial if you are from the outside looking in to the US higher education system. So this ranking really puts us in the top 5% of universities in the United States. And some of our graduate programs are ranked even higher, especially our public affairs program, which I will emphasize later, is the number 25 program in the US. So it's extremely highly ranked. We are a university that really believes in career outcomes. Our tagline is "See you in the city." And since we are in the middle of a major city, we are deeply connected to the local business community. We have many internships opportunities. We have many of our international students who pursue OPT after graduating and take advantage of their ability to work in the United States. And specifically, Denver as a city and Colorado as a state has really the strongest economy anywhere in the United States. We're frequently ranked in the top cities in the US for things like starting a business, finding a job, for the diversity of our economy, for the low unemployment rate. And so we need highly talented individuals such as yourselves to come help us keep our economy growing. I mentioned that ESL Academy. So if you don't have the TOEFL or IELTS score, or if you want to improve your English before you start your degree program, you can come and study English on our campus. You would be fully integrated into the campus community. You could live on campus. This is a very intensive, rigorous academic English program. It's not only English language, but also how to succeed in American classrooms, what to expect at the university, and really teaches you those academic skills. So you will, for example, write a research paper and give a presentation in English in order to graduate, that kind of thing. And then some of our top graduate programs, the School of Public Affairs has Master of Public Administration and Criminal Justice. These other ones that are listed here are some of our most popular ones. In addition to these, we also do have engineering and business. I had to cut that slide for time, but we do have civil, electrical, mechanical, and computer science. In business, we have the full range of majors that you would expect, from marketing and management to business analytics and information systems, global energy management. We have a wide variety of different programs. I specifically want to spend some time on the School of Public Affairs. So our School of Public Affairs is very highly ranked. It's number 25 in the USA. We offer Master of Public Administration, Master of Criminal Justice, PhD in Public Affairs. And we have special strengths in areas like emergency management, environmental policy, etc. We have many dual degree options. So you could earn, for example, a master's in economics and a master's in public administration, something like that. And what makes it really special for this audience in particular is that we do offer in-state tuition for Tajik citizens. So for the entire Commonwealth of Independent States, including Tajikistan, you pay what local Colorado students pay. So that is a much lower cost than the average international student would pay. And that's available for the MPA and MCJ programs when you come and study in Denver. So that means the tuition and fees is about $7,900 per year, which is a savings of over $10,000 per year. And there is no special application. There is no like approval process for this. All we need to see is your passport from Tajikistan, and then you automatically get this benefit. So really worth paying attention to. Also, I mentioned that there are online versions of these programs, and there is also a discounted tuition rate for the online programs. It's not quite as discounted. So the tuition would be a little bit more, but you obviously don't have the cost of living to think about with online programs. So also worth looking into. I'll also mention the Anschutz Medical Campus. This is our second campus. It's about 15 kilometers away from for the downtown campus, and this is where all of our medical programs are located. So we have a top 5 medical school, a top 15 college of nursing. We also have a school of pharmacy, public health, and dental medicine. And all of these are located on the Anschutz Medical Campus, which is the largest medical university campus in the United States, and has 3 major hospitals and provides clinical care for thousands of people every year, as well as doing research on really cutting edge technologies. This is part of the University of Colorado, Denver. And if you're interested in studying medical fields, I definitely recommend that you take a look at this. So a little bit more about Denver. Denver is a wonderful city. It is a major city in the Western United States, and it's ranked once again the #2 best place to live in the US. We have a very strong economy. We have a reasonable cost of living, very safe and effective public transit system. We have lots of fun things going on. We have more theater and more professional sports than any other city in the United States. And we're famous for the Rocky Mountains. So it's easy to get to the mountains, to get outside and enjoy that outdoor lifestyle. And we have beautiful weather with over 300 days of bright blue skies and sunshine every year. And I wanted to do just a little comparison between Denver and Dushanbe in particular, because I think that our cities have quite a lot in common. So first, we are capital cities. Denver is the capital of the state of Colorado, and of course, Dushanbe is the capital of Tajikistan. Both of these places are landlocked and far away from the ocean and are at a very high elevation. So we are actually higher than Dushanbe. We're at 1,600 meters or 1 mile. So you'll also hear Denver called the Mile High City. And we are very close to mountains, just like you. And our latitude is even very similar. So Denver is at 39 degrees north, Dushanbe is at 38 degrees north. So that means that the weather is going to be very similar to home. The sort of natural environment is going to be very similar, and the climate. And so it's no wonder that there is a connection between Colorado and Tajikistan. And in fact, one of Dushanbe's sister cities is Boulder, Colorado, which is only about half an hour away from Denver. And this is a picture of the Dushanbe Tea House in Boulder, which is a tea house that originally stood in Dushanbe and then was carefully dismantled piece by piece, shipped to Boulder, and then rebuilt. And so you have this very traditional, beautiful Tajik tea house right here in Colorado. So I definitely invite you to come and we can go have some tea together. A little bit more about my university. You know, we have a lot going on in terms of student life. We have many, many student clubs and activities. The Wellness Center can take you out into the mountains so you can go skiing or hiking or enjoy them. Being right in the middle of the city, we have access to all the museums and theaters and restaurants, and it really is a very safe and welcoming sort of place. You can live on campus or off campus. So we do have apartments at Links Crossing that are available on campus. We also have many students who choose to live off campus, and you can save a bit of money by living off campus. And as I mentioned, with our public transportation system, you can very easily take the train or the bus from your off-campus apartment to school each day. And that cost for public transportation is included in your student fees, so you don't have to pay to take the bus or the train. And then, of course, it's 2020, so I need to mention our COVID-19 response. We've had a very strong response. We have shifted this year to mostly remote and online courses, with only about 25% of our courses being on campus. And we have instituted extensive protocols. So anyone coming to campus has to take their temperature and certify that they are not experiencing any symptoms. They have to check in and wear a wristband and wear a mask at any time while on campus. So we remarkably have had very, very few cases of COVID on our campus. It's been very safe. We were able to provide some additional scholarship funding to help our students during this time. And we also added some flexibility to our application process, particularly engineering programs are waiving the GRE requirement, and we are accepting the Duolingo English test as proof of English language proficiency. So these are our application requirements. They look very similar to that list that I mentioned before. Our application fee is $75, but if you email me and let me know that you participated in this event, then we can waive that fee for you. Otherwise, it's very, very similar to that list of documents I went through earlier. No surprises here. Some of our programs do require additional items like portfolios, so you'll want to check on that program by program. These are the different programs and their attitudes about GRE, which is that standardized test. So I've highlighted again the School of Public Affairs because I think that's such a great opportunity for Tajik students, and we do not require a GRE for that program. And then there's others listed here as well. And then these are our university minimum English language proficiency requirements. You can choose one of these ways to meet the ELP requirement. So our IELTS is a 6.5 with 5.5 minimum in all subscores. Our TOEFL is 79. Duolingo is 105. Some graduate programs do have a higher TOEFL requirement, so you'll want to investigate each program specifically and see what they say for their English language requirement. And there are other ways. For example, if you've studied in the US before or earned a degree from a particular institution, we may be able to waive it. Keep in mind application deadlines, they really vary from program to program. So you will need to investigate your specific program and find out what the application deadline is. These deadlines that are listed here are specifically for those School of Public Affairs programs for the Master of Public Administration and Master of Criminal Justice that I mentioned that offer that reduced tuition opportunity. But this is not standard for all programs, so you will want to investigate carefully. And then finally, let's talk about cost of attendance and scholarships and financial aid. So again, I've highlighted the School of Public Affairs just to demonstrate how much money you could save by choosing one of those majors. But your cost of attendance is more than just your tuition and fees. So you should expect to cover all of your living expenses and your books and your health insurance, which is required for international students in the US. And so your total cost of attendance ends up being a lot more than just the tuition and fees. And so this, for example, on the bottom here, this total I-20 amount, this is the amount of money that we would need to see in your bank account in order to issue that I-20 for you to study at CU Denver. We do have research and teaching assistantships available. It varies from department to department, so you'll need to contact your department directly. It is possible to work on campus while you're an international student, and we do have an easy jobs board where you can find those jobs. If you apply to the business school, they can provide some small scholarships for most of their students. And we also have a platform where you can find thousands and thousands of internal and external scholarships easily on our website. So there are those options available. Some of our programs offer more generous scholarships, but many do not at my university. So I would expect